Hey, Tony guys here. I just wasted 10, 15 minutes trying to put together a tripod my wife had. But wanted to pop on here. Today is my 40th birthday, and I can't really hold my phone up the right way because I ain't got no proper tripod. But wanted to pop in. I know somebody wrote me and was like, "Hey, Tony, your birthday is Friday and hoping you take the day off." But to be honest with you, sometimes I joke about burnout and joke about that different stuff. But I was sitting in the bed watching TV while my wife, getting ready. We got a dinner tonight with some folks, and one of my homeboys, my business partner, he, put a little dinner together for me. And I was sitting there because I don't have to do makeup. My wife doing her makeup. So I probably got another 30 minutes free. And then I thought about it. I'm like, I'm watching TV. I'm watching the news. It ain't doing nothing for me. I could be operating in my purpose right now because tomorrow ain't promised. So I wanted to pop on here and share up to 40 lessons with you of my 40 years. And to be honest with you, I didn't know I was going to make it to 40 because I remember at 31, I became a life coach for an NBA team. And before that, at 29, I became an international intercontinental speaker. And so like stuff was happening in my life and I was like, it was scaring me. And I used to almost be in tears, and I used to be like, Lord, are you gonna take me early? Like, am I gonna live to see 40 because I'm doing so much at such a young age? And then I thought about Jesus, going at 33. And I thought about all these different people who nothing to do with religion, but I thought about the different artists and actors and actresses who died before 30, like all these people. And I'm like, man, or before 40 and some before 30. And I'm like, man, like a lot of times when you're doing a lot, so it used to scare me. But I realized we have to occupy time. Lesson number one, occupy time, meaning tomorrow is not promised. Do what you can do today. Do not put it off until tomorrow. Had a client yesterday. She called me and she said, Tony, I got to do this book. She said, I got to do this book. And if you're ghostwrite it, help me with it, author consultant, I got to do it. She made the payment just like that. And she say, I done had a couple dreams about it. Lord keep telling me. And that's what we have to do. You have to occupy your time. For example, I could have been sitting there watching the news, and the news ain't going to do nothing for me. But here I'm is occupying my time because the next minute is not promised. Tomorrow is not promised. And we waste a lot of time. Rule number 2 is use your gift. At 22 years old, I started writing my first book, What Daddy Never Told His Little Girl. And since that time, I've published about 17 or more books. And then I've ghostwritten countless books. And that taught me that there is room for your gift. And like the Bible says, your gift will make room for you. It's talking about a physical gift. Bringing a gift to the king or whoever hosting. But your gift will make room for you. And you got to use it. So many people are sitting on their gifts, not doing anything with them. And all you could do is take it to the grave. You might as well use it while you're here and just put one foot in front of the other. That's lesson number 3. I'm doing this just flow of the spirit. I don't have it written down or nothing. Y'all forgive me, so I might not have that many lessons, but we just going with the flow. That's lesson number 3. Put one foot in front of the other. You have to be able to take the next logical step. Do what you know how to do. Do what you're able to do. It's not about having a degree. I don't have a college degree. It's not about having a mentor. I don't have a mentor. It's not about having a team. I don't have a team. It's about you putting one foot in front of the other and doing what you can do, doing what you know how to do, doing what makes sense to you, because it might not make sense to everybody else. You have to be able to put one foot in front of the other. The next rule number 4, maybe that's rule number 4. My son got a little paper here. Rule number 4, create your blueprint. Meaning, when you take somebody else's blueprint, you have to depend on them forever. So even if you learn from other people, make sure that you put your fingerprint on your blueprint, because who else has your fingerprint? Nobody. So when you do things the way you want to do them, the way you know how to do them, you will never need anybody else. Prime example, TonyGasselsAcademy.com. That is me using a software that I know I understand. My mailing list, MailChimp.com. That's me using a mailing list that I understand. There was this mailing list that cost all this money, and everybody had this mailing list. All of the speakers had this mailing list, but this mailing list, when I went into it and I looked at it and I did a demo for it, you literally got to hire somebody to run it. And it was like, and they were like, yeah, we'll run it for you, $6,000 a month. I'm like, y'all have bumped y'all head. You have lost your ever-loving mind. Are you kidding me? If you don't get out my face with this mess. And guess what? That mailing list on MailChimp.com, right now it costs me over $400 a month. But it helps me earn hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And because you're able to collect emails, everybody who know you and come to your site, and then you able to send them. So the day I send an email out, and I say, hey, my 40th birthday, all courses on TonyGasselsAcademy.com is $40. Go there. It probably will earn, a few $1,000s off of one email. And that's just from people that support me. Like, I didn't post that on my Instagram with 900,000 followers. I didn't post it on my Facebook with 1.8 million followers, just to my mailing list. And I put it on the YouTube community page, but that don't really count because you never know how many people are going to see it. So create your blueprint. Lesson number 5 is don't waste time. You have to do it now. See, you got to launch ugly. You got to launch ugly. Do not waste time. We're going to make that lesson number 6. We're going to keep going. Because one thing means for itself. Lesson number 6 is launch ugly. So many people are perfectionists that they're waiting on every light to be green before they leave home. You got to launch ugly. You got to launch before you all the way ready, before everything perfect. You got to launch. Because guess what? You have to understand that by you launching, you one step closer to your dreams, and you 1 foot in front of everybody else. Launch ugly. Lesson number 7. Nobody know what they talking about. You have to understand that you just as smart, just as capable as anybody you meet. And although they know what they know, you know what you know. So don't put all your stock into somebody else's knowledge. You got to know you, and you got to do what you know. Nobody know what they talking about. And once you understand that, you start to realize. Lesson number 8, let God qualify you. Stop putting all your pride and hope and worth in your sorority and in your fraternity and in your degrees and in your associations. You will be qualified by God, and that qualification means more than any other qualification. So you have to understand that. Be qualified by God. Number 9, rule number 9, do what you are called to do, not what you want to do. What I mean by that is, I want to be a basketball coach, college basketball coach. I want to be a college football coach. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a detective. It's a lot that I want to do, but God has called me to this. And one of the things that we get caught up in is we get caught up in doing corporate. We get caught up in building somebody else's dream instead of God's dream, instead of being obedient to what we have been called to. So you have to understand, when you do what you called to do, it's gonna work out for you. Rule number 10, think abundantly. You have to stretch your mind, and you have to know that there is power in the tongue. So you have to be able to say, money is easy to make. Money is everywhere. Opportunity is everywhere. Anything that I want, I can have it. That's how you have to start thinking. Think abundantly. Rule number 11, stop speaking poverty. I was sitting there today, and I'm talking to my wife. We coming home, and I'm looking, and y'all bless me. Some people bless me on Cash App. And I was thinking, I'm like, okay, this bill, that bill, that bill. And I say, you know what? Them bills could wait. All them bills are connected to is a credit score. Bumper credit score. My wife, I got her right now. I got her today. My tomorrow ain't promised. Let me bless her. Baby, here, take this here, make this transfer to your account. Do what you want to do with it. And tomorrow ain't promised. So you have to stop speaking poverty. Listen, what can you do? Somebody wrote in, I got courses for $40, and we are adults. We are adults. And somebody wrote in and said, hey, can you keep this $40 sale for the rest of the month? It's March 8th. So what this person was saying is it's going to take them 22 days to get $40. That is an existence that we can no longer accept. But guess what? That person that wrote in is not the only one. If I would have took time and went through all the other emails, it would have been tens of other people. And I remember being there. But what I know now is that was my choice. I was choosing that. So guess what? I'm not a journalism major. I'm not a English major. But yesterday, I charged my rate, my friends and family rate for ghostwriting, which is $10,000. And my client, because I have written books, my client said, hey, I trust you to write my book. And my client knows that I'm a ghostwriter. And my client paid me right then. I don't have a degree for the gift that I have. But if I was sitting and I was thinking, because next week my wife and I are going to Turks and Caicos. And when I booked that Turks and Caicos, I could not afford it because they charge too much money over there, because they don't want those of us who be tight. And I say, I am tight no longer. I said, I'm going to use my gifts, and I'm going to speak life. I'm going to speak abundance, and I'm going to walk by faith, and I'm going to trust God, and it is going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. I looked at property tax bill. Property tax bill on one of my properties is over $14,000 cash money, because I always forget to do the homestead exemption. And I say, I don't know where that $14,000 gonna come from, but it's coming. It's coming. And I ain't tapping into no, IRA for it. It's gonna be fresh, new, earned money. It's coming. Got to go to England with my son. I got to pay up front for it because I don't have their type of, system. I'm not a citizen in England, so they don't really trust my credit score from America. So you got to pay up front. 5 months. is $3,000 a month. So that's about $15,000. No, it ain't. I'm lying. $2,600 a month. So up front, this is for my son, for my child. I don't know where it's going to come from, but it's going to come. And that's what I mean. Think abundantly and stop speaking poverty. Stop speaking poverty. Rule number 12, invest in you. Invest in you. I never forget, I went to a seminar that I found on eventbrite.com randomly. The seminar was $300 that I did not have. I paid the $300. I went the first day. I was late. It was an all-white audience with a white speaker. I'm walking in there like I'm the only black person, and I'm on colored people time. CP time, what we call it. That man looked at me. If looks could kill, I would have dropped dead. Now, he threw me off because I envisioned whooping his behind for about the next hour or two because of how he looked at me. He really disrespected me, but I disrespected him for coming late. He don't know if I could have gotten a wreck. He don't know what I was coming from. I had to drive 2 hours to get there. I got there and he talking or whatever. I ain't hear nothing he was saying, but then he had some people talking and they just selling their product. Well, one guy came up there with a course, and his course was $1,000. And we had to go back to the room and fill out this paper and put our card information. And I said, hey, I ain't got the money today. Don't charge me today. Right on here, charge me Monday. He charged me Monday. I ain't had the money Monday. And the course was $1,000. I remember having like $105 in my business account. But it was a business account that hadn't done high volume. I hadn't had money come in there, but I wasn't using the account like that. And so it allowed to go into overdraft, negative 900. I started watching the course. I'm invested in me. I started watching the course, and 30% of the course I done got through. And I'm like, man, this here is a good little lesson. It was a powerful little lesson. Next thing you know, this guy reached out to me and he want to do coaching with me. Here I am, just went negative 900. And this guy come and he said, I want to book a year of coaching with you, but I want to start with a half a year. Say, first I want to come meet you. He came and he said, I'm going to pay you $750 to meet with you, talk with you for 2 hours. I said, okay, cool. We talked 2 hours. Then he said, I want to hire you. I said, okay, all right, cool. You know, here go the rate. I had to come up with a rate because I hadn't had nobody sign up for that chunk of time. And the rate came to like $6,000 for a half a year. And he paid it in one payment. Went negative 900 to make 6,000 like the next week. And then what I learned in that course, it didn't even finish the course, didn't even get halfway through it. What I learned in that course, I taught that client. That client went on to make millions as a high ticket coach and consultant. That client took, in the system that we created in our coaching, he expounded upon it, and he started pitching and packaging that to high net worth individuals who was paying him, stroking checks, 40K at one time, 80K at one time, 100K at one time, 200K at one time. He got these people to stroke him a check for his executive coaching. And not only coaching him, they'll have him coach their child, coach their spouse, coach their employee. And he flying around the world as a high ticket executive coach. And this my client, my mentee, and doing better than me in the coaching. And so when you stop speaking what we talked about, poverty, rule number 11 and rule number 12, you invest in yourself. A lot of people are afraid to go broke on themselves. And if you ask my wife, all throughout my career, all throughout while I'm building, I will spend my last dollar on business. I will spend my last dollar to produce a course. I'll spend my last dollar to produce a book, to produce an album, to produce something. I will spend my last dollar, but I bet on me. I invest in me. And that is something that people do not do. I'm going to tell you another key, number 13, give. Give. I sow 10% every year. I do not give it to the church because I am the church, meaning I'm not sitting inside of somebody building. So I'm not going to give to their lights and their water and to their Rolls Royce and their Range Rover and their Escalades. I am the church. I'm a minister. I am a ministry. I hit the pavement and I sow and I bless people who cannot help themselves. The Bible say you ought to help your parents and take care of the women 60 and up in your family. And so what I take and do is I find the needs of people who cannot earn enough money, and I bless them and I bless them. And I give over 10% of my annual gross income, not my take home, not my net, my gross. So what I mean by that is if I make 100,000, just throwing a number out there, if I make 100,000, 10 to 25,000 of that, I bless other people with it. I bless other people. And that right there, give. That ties into the abundant mindset. But when you give, God give it back, pressed down, shaking together, and running over. And you give with a cheerful heart. You give with a glad heart. And that's what you got to realize and understand. When you do that, it's going to unlock doors. Now I got to get ready to go here in a little bit. Because the dinner at 7:30 is 6:28. So as you moving forward, I'm going to tell you rule number 14. Be willing to walk alone. You can't always focus on community. You can't always focus on friends. I heard a guy say the way a man ruined his life is by being an island and isolating himself. That's not biblical, because God calls us out from among them. God sent those who he called to the wilderness and separated them from everybody. Those who he called had to go to the mountaintop and pray. They had to go to the wilderness alone. They had to sit in the dungeon, the den with the lions alone. They had to sit in prison, in a cell alone. They had to walk alone. They had to be obedient alone. They could not count on any and everybody else to be obedient to God. Jonah, because he was not obedient, what he end up in the mouth of the whale? Jonah was by himself being disobedient, and then had to realize he had to be obedient. When Moses went, he had him a counterpart, was it Aaron or somebody? But when Moses was standing there talking, he was by himself. When Jesus got on that cross, not now one of them disciples climbed up on a cross. He was by himself. You have to be willing to walk alone in the seasons that God instructs you to walk alone. You may not have to walk alone forever, but there will be seasons of separation before elevation. And you could take that quote and make it rule number 15, separation before elevation. You got to understand that. This is what you're going to have to realize. Rule number 16, righteousness in the dark. Stop touching yourself. Stop fornicating. Stop backbiting. Stop gossiping. Stop lying. Stop stealing from the government on your taxes. Stop cheating. Stop gossiping. Righteousness in the dark. When nobody is looking, consecrate your heart. Do not walk around with a smile like a Pharisee, but your heart is filthy. Consecrate your heart and have righteousness in the dark. I'm going to tell you, rule number 17, the blessings will overflow. I can't even tell you about these blessings, because every time I try to tell you about a blessing, the devil be in the comments talking about you. I'm bragging. It ain't even about the material things. It ain't about the money. It ain't about the opportunities. It ain't about none of that. What it's about is God's favor. The blessings will overflow. People watching my son get the opportunity to go to England and train over there in soccer. And a lot of people are jealous about that, because they like, he's not that much better than my son. He's not better than my son. How is he going to England? God's favor. God's favor. These rules right here me reaching out, me making connections, me believing that anything is possible with God. And then we come back home and then we go to Yale, or Ivy League, and he one of their top 15 recruits. And he on their top 15 team at that camp and meeting the coaches and having lunch with the coaches. And we at Yale. And people, look, this kid just come back from England and now he at an Ivy League, one of 8 Ivy Leagues as a young black man. And he in that top 15. He on that top 15 team. And on that top 15 recruits, he was probably one or maybe 2 boys of color. And the favor of God, the blessings will overflow. Rule number 18, you ain't got to floss. You ain't got to floss. Now, for teaching purposes, sometimes I talk about the blessings of God and the things in there like that and this and that. But you ain't got to floss, because when God bless you, you can't hide the favor of God. Your barns will be full and they will be overflowing, and you cannot hide the blessings of God. So you ain't got to floss. Number 19. Stand on it. Rule number 19, stand on it. Don't worry about being cool. Don't worry about being in the in crowd. Say what God has instructed you to say. Live how God has instructed you to live. Do what God has instructed you to do. Go where he done told you to go, and stand on it. Don't worry about who don't understand it. Don't worry about who don't like it, and don't worry about who don't like you. Rule number 20. Know that it can happen. You have to know that whatever has been put on your heart by God will come to pass. You may be tired. You may be weary. You may be crying. You may feel broken. But if God put it on your heart, it is going to happen. But you don't need to know how it's going to happen. Rule number 21. You are not God. What I mean by that is, when I said I wanted to make 100,000 a year, I had no clue how it would happen. It happened. Then I said 200. Then I said 500. Then I said 750. I had no clue how those milestones would happen. But that was a barometer and a byproduct. It wasn't about the money. It was a byproduct. Because if you notice, when God showed up in one of his servants' life, like the life of Job and the life of David and the life of Solomon, and when God showed up in the life of Abraham and all his descendants, there was blessings. There was overflowing blessings and favor. Doors was open that people tried to close. God took Joseph out of the prison and had him second in command in the country. So what you have to realize is that you are not God. Don't worry about the rhyme and the reason. With God, 2 + 2 = 10. With man, 2 + 2 = 3. With math, 2 + 2 = 4. But with God, the math ain't mathing, because 2 + 2 = 10. See, God will multiply your addition. And that's what you have to understand. You are not God. Now, that was rule number 21. I got to go. I got to get dressed. And so I might get to finish the other 19. Listen, I'm just flowing with the spirit. I'm just making these up. And I'm writing down the numbers so I keep track of the numbers. I forget. But, hey, there might be 21 lessons. Get this in your spirit. But I need to go so I can get this uploaded by 7 before I head out to dinner. God bless you. We'll talk soon. Watch this 3 times. Play this while you going to sleep tonight. Play this while you riding in your car. Play this while you coming home. Rule number 22, feed your mind. Stop feeding your mind with all this junk and this mess. These sorry stupid Instagram pages that's posting gossip all day, talking about dang sizes and all this stupidness. And feed your mind something that's going to edify your spirit. Cut off that raunchy, nasty, sorry music that ain't making you better and ain't making you no money and ain't getting you closer to your goal. And feed your mind. Hey, God bless you. We'll talk soon.